sitting nicely in your very bright and wonderful kitchen. I'm assuming that's your kitchen, right?
This is my kitchen. Is it actually echoey?
It's not like
A little
it's way less echoey than the previous room that you were in. I don't know which room that was because
Yeah, my
you've
living
been
room.
changing you've
My
been
living
changing your
room
setup so
sounds
much.
gigantic. Yeah, my living room sounds gigantic, but in kind of a funny way. It sounds good,
Yeah.
but obviously not so good for this, I guess.
Yeah, that's okay.
My brother just texted me randomly. He said, "Holy shit, Crystal Pepsi is back!" Ah.
That's an interesting thing to get really excited about.
Yeah.
And now Chrome's saying page unresponsive. Google Hangouts.
Oh
Should I
man,
kill
Chrome's
it
being
or should I wait?
dude.
Interesting
Just
thing to get really excited.
yeah.
Yeah, which page are you talking about? Which one? The Google Hangouts is unresponsive?
Yeah.
So sad, so sad, so sad.
Should I kill it and
Hey,
join
man,
and
go
rejoin?
to your screen. I don't want to be looking at this. Let's go to another screen.
Which one?
Go to any page that's not somewhere in the middle of this presentation. How's that? Since everyone can see your screen.
Woo! Good call, dog. I like that. I like that fastness about you. You're always really good about that.
All right.
Well,
if I
YouTube
drop
funny.
off, I'll
So it's
join.
like, wait, they can't see all these things, you know. And well, I guess they still can because on the left side they can see all these notes, right?
Yeah.
No, present mode. There you go. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in present mode.
Well played, man.
Yeah. So, welcome to Mix Wednesday 78. Kenny, are you still alive? What's going on? You good? I feel like you've been trying to ask me a couple questions for the past 2 seconds, and I haven't been able to answer you. What's going on, bud?
No, he's not there.
Oh. All right.
Well, goodbye, Kenny.
Oh, poor buddy. Where'd he go? I think his laptop just died on him.
It may have just exploded. So, how did we end up on this topic this week?
Okay. So, well, first off, everybody, welcome to Next Wednesday, quote unquote, Ryan's special birthday episode. And we wanted to talk today, do a little bit of a conversational topic because the last few classes have been so technical. We wanted to discuss something because we like discussing things, especially things that have to do with the world that we live in, this pro audio world. The way this conversation came up was because we wanted to talk about something that we actually just haven't really talked about yet. And I remembered a while back having a conversation. We actually made a video about it. Someone asked us in a similar episode that was about the business of, marketing yourself, about getting more engineers to use your own personal studio. That was an interesting question because it opened up pretty much the rest of the episode to all these thoughts about presence and like, all the things that when you think of a studio, you think of what you would want as an engineer looking at the studio. And for a while, I actually have been thinking about this. Like, I've been thinking about like how like there's a very harsh subjectiveness to needs when it comes to a studio, but the second those needs aren't met, you immediately know they aren't there. You know what I mean? Like it's this really specific thing to kind of nail down. So, hello, are you back, Kenny?
He is.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen. Kenny Goshgarian.
Can everybody hear him?
I can hear him.
Okay.
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. He's just talking like Cartman. That's why we couldn't hear him.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's totally cool. So that's kind of how we came upon the topic, and we just kind of want to talk about the things that we have witnessed over the years in home studios, in pro studios, in major commercial studios, and even from Kenny, who runs his own studio. You know what I mean? So
I think this one's going to be fun because Kenny is actually totally directly related to everything that's in this, since he does run his own studio and it is reasonably successful. So
yeah,
it's a good spot to be.
I think it's a very good spot to be.
Are you smiling because I put the reasonably in there? Who's doing that?
Oh, I was unsure of the degree of sarcasm there.
No.
That's hilarious.
I'm not gonna say you're hustling and bustling. You're not booked every single day, right?
No, at one point I was pretty full, but
then you got kind of focusing on other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's more that your focus became something not the studio than the studio became useless,
That's right.
So it's kind of your decision there. So that still means that when you wanted it to be fully booked, it was fully booked, which is an awesome place to be. So that's why this will be kind of a fun conversation because Dan, I know you book studios reasonably regularly, right?
Yep.
Like anytime you do a session. Kenny,
Yep.
run your own, and
Yep.
I get pulled in to do sessions that someone else has booked. So
Yep.
we all have like a different perspective
Yep.
on the same kind of thing, which is a cool place to be.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting conversation because, yeah, like you said, we all have different aspects of it, and we all kind of bring something different to the table. Especially like myself and you, Ryan, working in the MI side of things as well, and you having experience in the live world. So like what it's like to go into a different situation every single week or
Yeah.
day, and you just have this bullet list of questions that you need to knock off before you even think about putting your cases somewhere. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's like this is a real world thing, and it actually didn't really become that. I didn't realize personally the importance of like the all the things that surround like the live world until I just started doing it, and I started working for Live Nation and Graham and Irving, and it's like you just see like the mixing the show is probably the most effortless part of it and the easiest part almost or maybe not the easiest but like the part of the show where like you're not running around asking questions or anything. You're just like you got everything right in front of you and you just are doing
And you're just doing it. Yeah.
I don't know how should we start this? How should we start this whole thing? Like, we just go down the list, or do we want to just kind of chat about something else? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, how do you feel we ended up on this topic?
Well, I was writing.
I can tell you how we ended up on this topic.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, go for it.
Brought it up. Remember a couple weeks ago, I found out that there was actually 4 or 5 studios within walking distance of my house.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I remember now. Yep.
Right?
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So I found out suddenly, oh man, there's a bunch of recording studios within walking distance of my house. Considering this is what we do, and my full-time job is design for recording software and live consoles, and it's like this is my world of things. It makes sense that I make friends with these people, know them, even if it is just walking in saying, hey man, I live down the street. It's not like I'm coming in looking for work. It's not like I'm coming in looking to book the space.
Yeah.
I'm just a resource for them, and they are now a resource for me. And it got weird. I pinged some people, and they said, well, if you're not looking to book time, we're not going to make time to show you the studio.
Wow.
Maybe not directly in those words, because obviously what I just said is pretty harsh.
Yeah.
They basically said, come back to us when you're looking to book time.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's the nicer way to say it, but it's still just the same kind of perspective.
Yeah.
At which point I go, well, even if they've got a great facility, I don't really give a crap anymore. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I go, well, you guys, like if you're not willing to build a community here and like make this a thing, why would I start at your space? So this is where this whole conversation kind of came from. Myself getting turned down by a couple studios just for wanting to go in and meet the engineers, meet the staff, see the facility, see what they had, and really all just because they were within walking distance from my house.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's interesting because they just said no, and you were just a person that just wanted to know. They had no idea who you were, what your background is, who you've worked with, who you would bring to the studio, just to be like, dude, this awesome studio exists. Let's all hang out, and I'll bring some wine over, and we can have a fun time watching something about that we all love. And it was literally like, sorry, like some jaded, like a jaded response. Not that it's like jaded, but it sounds like a jaded response to me, at least. I don't know.
It kind of does to me. I mean, the interesting thing is though, is that you see a dude walking down the street. How much do you assume about that person based on maybe what they're wearing or what their haircut is? All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the people that don't talk about their work all the time and don't try to impress you with the things they did
Yeah.
are probably the ones that have done the most.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
I've noticed that, like, even if you go to like networking things, there's guys going, oh yeah, I work in the studio. Oh yeah, I worked on this. I did that. I did this. I did that. And then there's the couple guys who are kind of just sitting, chilling, having conversations, and not talking about their record or their last project or their this. They're just absorbing.
Yeah.
Those guys always are the dudes with the extraordinarily large credit list. And
Yeah.
those guys are the guys that are like, oh wow, okay, they know what they're doing.
Maybe it's because they've been sitting there doing their shit all day. They just want to have a real conversation with somebody that doesn't have anything to do with what they do professionally.
Probably.
Well,
You
no,
know?
it's not even that. It's more that they don't need to impress you with name dropping. In
Yeah,
fact,
that's
they
true.
don't want to, because the moment they do, you're going to start asking a whole heap of questions about what they just said.
Yeah, that's true.
Now the conversation is no longer about, now it's about, tell me about this client and tell me about this record and that. And it's not new information for them anymore. Now it's just, oh, let me regurgitate the story I've told 100 times.
Yeah.
The same thing happens for me when it comes to, like, my work, the whole live sound stuff. I
Yeah.
work for people that a lot of people want to know a lot of things about, right?
Yeah, totally.
I usually just don't tell them what I do, or just don't tell them who I've worked for, because if I do, then all of a sudden it's just like a whole heap of questions about some pop artist, and I'm like, I've answered these 1,000 times to 1,000 people,
Yeah.
and it's not really in my place to be talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like, you don't need to know this. It's not your information to have. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. That's an interesting. Yeah. So I guess that is exactly what started this entire conversation. And it kind of got us talking about the idea of going through kind of a list of things that, as engineers or as people who run studios or people who work in studios a lot, see or need or just notice about these places that are doing well and maybe not doing well, but more of the doing well, I think. This is less of a negative conversation than, this is more of a positive conversation than negative.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. So yeah,
I don't want to talk about the mistakes. I want to talk about the things that actually, drive towards success,
totally.
as opposed to these are the things that drive to failure. I really dislike those kinds of conversations. In fact, I think that to be part of this conversation is the fact that, in general, the attitude of a studio needs to be driving towards success rather than driving away from failure, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, totally.
I know there was some point in time where I pinged a studio and they said, what other studios are you looking at? And I told them a couple.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, those guys are garbage. And I go, cool. You have no idea if I know the owner, if I'm friends with people there, if I am best friends with the engineer, or if I've done 10 records there already.
Yeah.
That is not a way for this conversation to start, So
Right.
that in itself was a driving away from failure type thing. I mean, that's their impression of it. As opposed to saying, oh yeah, those are some great facilities. What did you like about them? Oh, cool, we have that as well. We also have this cool thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a totally different perspective. Sorry, go ahead, Kenny.
That's a little off topic, but it reminds me of I was at this bar once, and there was a tattoo artist there.
I'm sorry, what were you at?
I was at a bar.
Sorry.
There was a tattoo artist there, and I was like, oh, we started talking about tattoos, and I showed him what I had of mine at that time so far, and I said, I was just trying to chat with him, see what his ideas were. So I was like, have any idea what you would do with this? And he goes, cover it up.
Oh, come
Oh
on.
my God, really?
He goes, come on, man, that shit's mad 90s. I'm like,
Whoa.
yeah. I was
Wow.
just like, okay, well, I won't be going to you.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's basically, I don't know. There's a certain etiquette,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even call that etiquette. That's like
Common
human
decency.
interaction 101, right?
That's the sound of a. Again, I'm going to say it. It's the sound of a
Jaded?
ruthless, jaded, person. Like ruthlessly jaded in everything.
He didn't get my business.
You know, the
Yeah.
interesting thing about that is that you basically offered somebody business, and they basically
I,
just said,
I, yeah, I mean, I more than
Wow.
offered it. I was just like, not only will I give you business, but I want to hear what your creative, ideas are for this. And he just basically was just like, uh, no, actually, that sucks. I'm better than that.
Crazy. Yeah, that's I like that idea though, driving towards success. That's what every single
Yeah,
topic I think, I feel like that's what like you want your friends to do. That's what you want yourself, your friends, yourself, everybody in your life, and every business opportunity or business that you run. You want to drive towards success, but sometimes there are these blinders on that some people may have, where they only have like this one idea of success, and
yeah,
they just
yeah,
disregard everything else around it. Like kind of maybe what these guys, hey, you can't come here without booking time. You should cover that tattoo up. It's shit. You know what I mean?
well, the thing is that it's not like someone necessarily comes into this with an idea of negativity. That's not where they're starting, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
They're actually coming into this going, I don't like that place because of X, Y, Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where the idea starts. But the way they present it to you is that place sucks because maybe not even saying because.
yeah,
And it would be better to find out from your client what they thought about that place. What did they
That's
like? What didn't they like? Can you fill that hole?
right. Right.
As opposed to telling them what you think. Nobody actually cares what you think unless they ask you, what do you think?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you go into a studio and they go, oh, well, where else have you been? And you tell them some places, I would expect that studio's first response to be, what was great? Oh, what didn't you like? Did it fit your needs?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you
yeah,
go from there. Plus, honestly, that creates community. I mean, there are going to be ruthless places, ruthless studios that go, oh, well, screw that guy. We're going to steal his business. We're going to steal his business. But stealing of business tends to be short term,
That's
um,
true. Yeah.
opposed to kind of earning business, which tends to be long term. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's
yeah,
just the idea of, yeah, it's just phasing out negativity, because today like a lot of people are really just like they get high on negativity. That's like basically what all of the media
Oh, have
is.
you seen the election?
Have you
yeah,
seen have a what?
Have you seen the election so far?
Yeah, it's just this addiction to hatred and all
Yeah.
this stuff, and it's like, it's so, and what's amazing is that it's so easy to just, and I know this might not be totally off topic, but it's so easy to just say fuck that shit, or like, like I hate this, and it's actually harder to be positive every day than it is to be negative every day. At least I've noticed, with some people, and even stuff that I do. Like I'm just like, man, I gotta stop thinking negative today. I'm just gonna go take a nap, a little
yeah,
disco nap. I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna make myself some coffee, I'm gonna go walk around the block, get some sun in me, because I've been deprived of that because I've been inside. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna like go like do things that have nothing to do with I'm currently working on, because I got this negative attitude. And
yeah.
it's crazy.
It's definitely way harder to be positive, but once you can get yourself to be positive, it's way more fulfilling. And
Yeah.
going back to the stealing thing or stealing business, it's like you don't want, I mean, earning business is way better because it's a long-term goal or solution.
Yeah.
Stealing is a temporary thing.
Right. So, okay, I mean, I think that kind of covers a lot of the stuff about just general positivity and a manner by which you need to present yourself to clients, right?
I think so. I
Yeah,
definitely think so.
I really do think the aiming for community and aiming for friendship as the primary goal is what really earns you clients and earns you a gig, you know?
Yep.
And then from there, we can jump into the rest of the stuff that we have kind of detailed out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
Kenny, you got your own studio. How does this work for you? Are you basically friends with everybody that comes in?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming it doesn't even start that way; it just ends that way.
It almost always ends that way, and if it doesn't, if we don't become like at least more than acquaintances, then they go by the wayside, and then whenever they need something done, they usually come back to me. you
Right,
know,
right.
um, so if they're into audio, if they're into a lot of the things that I'm into, and we both get jazzed about that stuff, we become friends. But even if not, and we're just working together, we're basically like working friends, Like
Right.
when they want to do their next project, they know that they're gonna hit me up, and we're gonna do an awesome job and have a lot of fun doing it.
Right. Right. A lot of fun doing it is kind of a big thing. I remember when you guys all flew out here for the Wild Imaginaries tracking. I remember Josh, the drummer. We put him in a room for what, 10 hours?
Yep, we did.
Something like that.
Right. That's a pretty serious session.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we took lots of breaks and all, but that's 10 hours of drumming, right? But that guy at the end of that session said that it is the best he's ever heard drums sound. He said it was the tightest playing in the end, because
Wow.
I remember we were pretty nuts about it and like getting it to feel right and all that.
Yeah.
But he also said it's the most fun he's ever had in a session.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if you think about it, I mean, we put that guy through the ringer. We made him 10 hours, and it was, I mean, not that he literally didn't do 10 hours straight. We did lots of breaks, but that's a serious session.
Yeah.
Dude, when I was in there for
Smiling and having a great time, and walked out of there going, that's the best session I've ever had.
yeah,
Anyway, sorry, what were you going to say, Kennedy, there?
never mind.
Okay. Shall we jump into some of the bullet points we have?
Yeah, let's jump into it. So let's jump into the first one. This one is in-person aesthetic. And there's a bullet point here, so you can probably ignore that. Let me just remove that.
Well, dot.
Sorry. Okay, back to being professional.
In-person aesthetic, I mean, I guess, so just to give you guys a little bit of insight for how this whole list of things came up, Dan goes, well, what are some of the topics we should talk about? And I just rattled off, like,
Oh yeah. So what the hell were you thinking?
so he just wrote them down. And now we're trying to figure out what the hell I was talking about. I might not, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But in-person aesthetic is obviously like the first thing we all think of when we look at studios, right? Because we post pictures of gorgeous studios.
Yes.
Every week we post a picture of a gorgeous studio. And honestly, I don't know anything about most of these studios we're posting the pictures of. I just know that they look amazing.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm sure plenty of you guys have joined next Wednesday because you saw a picture of a gorgeous studio.
Yep, it's true.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it would entice me to, look into it.
Right. So let's start here. I mean, Kenny, you've got your space. What are the things you've done to your space to make it aesthetically like pleasing? Like what have you done to have someone walk in and go, oh man, this looks like a studio?
I keep, I guess there's a few things. So I keep the live room. I try to keep it clean. I try to keep my gear not out, but accessible, so people can go over to the rack and say, "Oh, look at all these crazy microphones you have. You must know what you're doing," even though that doesn't mean much.
Well, no, I mean it really does.
No, I think it does.
That's an interesting thing. I mean that's probably a topic we should jump onto later. Actually, no, not even later. Even right now.
How about right now?
You keep it clean and you keep a bunch of gear out so people can see how much stuff you have.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't disagree with that. In fact, I was thinking about this last night after we wrote up this list or whatnot.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a whole bunch of studios I've been into where they've got racks full of gear, right?
Yep.
But a bunch of the gear is just definitely stuff they don't use.
Sure.
Yep.
It's like a Roland D8, which is like a synthesizer from like 1972 that they definitely don't even have plugged in.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That maybe one band used like 10 years ago, or maybe not. Maybe they just found it on eBay.
Yeah, I mean, I swear there are people that just like troll to buy $10 pieces of kit just to throw in their rack, just so the rack looks full of gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, myself being an audiophile and kind of an audio gearhead here, I walk in and I laugh. Right?
Yeah, you just like, oh, this is so awesome. I default to laughing.
Stupid. But if you're trying to book this as a recording studio, not a mixing studio,
Yeah.
Yeah.
often you're using your own engineer, right?
Yep.
often the bands don't know that that piece of gear is something that's totally useless. Engineers might, but the band won't.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
instead, they walk in and they go, "Oh my God, they got so much gear in here."
Yeah.
And somehow gear equates to good, and gear equates to expensive. Gear equates to a pro space.
Yep.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
I just realized.
It implies you made an investment.
Yeah. I just realized a conversation that I had a long time ago, like way back in 2009 in Nashville, Tennessee, before the flood happened down there. I was on a trip with Berkeley when I was attending there, and they made a point to give us a tour through Blackbird Studios, and
Blackbird's nice.
it's very nice. It's like a compound. It's amazing, and because Blackbird, they have a partnership with Berkeley because they have so many friends that work there. All the people who work there know all the teachers because it's just a big community, right? So they draw a lot of their interns from all of the major recording schools, and Berkeley's one of them because it's got one of the most advanced production kind of spaces and degrees that you can get. And it's Berkeley, whatever. So they specifically walked us through all of the studios in the compound that were being used first to blow our fucking minds. We walked into one of their studios that had the 96 channel API that just is stupid large, and it was an entire it was Buddy Guy's latest tracking session, and they just happened to have the day off, and they were just like drums, like they're the drum set up, all the microphones, all the crazy ribbon mics, snares everywhere, a room with like 9 amps going at the same time, just like the patch bays were just ridiculous looking. And they just blew our minds. And it was like, imagine like if they just brought us through the room that had nothing set up. It was just like an empty room, and there's just like, oh, here's a mixing desk like you have at school. You know what I mean? Like, it really like stuck in my mind because I remember that visually and clearly, but I don't really remember any of the other rooms.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I understand that. It is totally an impressed thing. So that's not just sheer amount of gear, though, right? What else did you walk in and were you impressed by?
I was impressed by the cleanliness, and 2, the controlled chaos. Like everything was, it seemed like there was so much going on, but everything was completely under control, and everything was like had a reason, and it wasn't just like a bunch of stuff everywhere. It was like just everything had a purpose. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we could ask the engineer, why did you do this? And he could tell you that, immediately. He's like, yeah, we set this up. This is what this sounds like. And he brought up all the faders and like, here's the session that we tracked yesterday. You know what I mean? Right. It was like they gave you basically a fly in the wall experience in an everyday tracking session of their studio. It was really cool.
That's nice.
Very cool. That is very cool. So one thing I always notice in really, really great studios is that their lighting is impeccable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm big on lighting.
Yeah, with your 2 lava lamps.
There are 2, yes.
No, but
and I have that color light, that color LED. And I actually have that recording sign.
Yes,
in the live room.
The recording sign and all that. That's cool.
Talking about little things that impress people. So when I have a glass sign that says recording, and when it's record enabled, it's yellow, and when we're tracking, it turns red. And it's pretty fun, and people like fun shit.
Well, one of the other nice things about the lighting thing is that you can pull people's focus away from a massive pile of cables that's sitting behind a rack.
Yeah.
By forcing them to focus on the bright area, right? You kind of use light. There's lots of lighting up walls that people do, that kind of stuff. And these days, it's actually really cheap to do. So if you're doing this in a home space, there's tons of like LED strip that you can control the colors of. There's tons of those Wi-Fi controlled LED bulbs that you can put in.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one you got, Kenny, but you got some like color controllable strip, right, or something?
Yeah. I got a couple things like that. I don't know. I just I like to set the mood.
Yeah.
It's fun. And
Well,
I like when people come in and, you know, they go over there and they see my little, you know, my little humidor with, you know, cigar box and whiskeys and like, you know, just things that make people feel like, oh, this is well kept. This is a place that should be, you know, is someone is proud of, and it should be.
Right. Ultimately, you want to present like organization and a plan and a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the interesting things, though, is that I always hated that studios were basically dark. They never have windows. They're always in like a dark place, right?
Yeah.
Which is great when you do tons of overnight sessions. People aren't aware of, time, and that's a great thing because then they just keep working and it seems creative. And then you also have complete control of the aesthetic. You can make it, kind of yellow and kind of dim and kind of this. You can make it kind of blue and kind of, whatever it is you want to do. What sucks is that ultimately I want tons of sunlight.
Yeah.
But at the same time, once you do that, you no longer have control of the overall aesthetic because you no longer have light control,
Yeah, it's true.
If you have big open windows, now your studio is going to be bright and it is going to be totally visible and it's going to be all based on the actual colors and all those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If it's gray out and it's raining, it's gray out and it's raining. You know what I mean? It's not like a isolated place from the world. It's not raining,
Right. So I always used to kind of, complain a little bit about how no studios had windows. And then once I started working in a space that had tons of natural light, I totally understood why.
Ah, I see.
Because
That's interesting.
my gear, you can see all the dust on it. You can see this, and it's just because the natural light coming right onto it.
Oh, I see.
But when it's night and I have my lights set in like the kind of way I like to work, you don't see any of that, and it looks spot on and clean.
Yeah. That's
Kinda
pretty awesome.
interesting, right?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty
Anyway,
cool.
so also the other thing about in-person aesthetic is that you're going to post pictures on the internet, and that's going to be the first place someone's going to see your studio.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And it needs to look clean, and it needs to look attractive, and it needs to look impressive in some way, right?
Yeah.
So outside of the gear, the stuff that generally seems to impress people is extraordinarily on-point lighting. Usually acoustic treatment, and it's not because the acoustic treatment's there, but because it looks like a studio when you have it.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are often off-white colors. They're not just going to be white. They're not going to be something that's sterile. It'll be like kind of an earthy color, something darker. Curtains, that kind of stuff, usually darker and all that. So that ultimately, the darker you make it, you can control the color of it all with lights better.
Right. Yep.
Just remember that your first point of entry for people is going to be, for the most part, the internet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
pictures.
and also, I
Exactly.
mean, you got to keep in mind that it's not going to be all your pictures either. I mean, I think a lot of the pictures that people are going to see because of social media are pictures of the bandmates, taking a
photos
photo of each other tracking.
Right, totally. I actually totally forgot about that. That's a good point too. Yeah. So that's kind of an argument for maintaining this aesthetic while you're in the middle of this stuff. Like, hey, the band's in there, but don't leave food containers everywhere just because they're there and they're hanging out.
Yeah.
Keep it really on point and organized. Even your cable management, keep it really together.
Yeah.
So when they take a photo of the drum kit that's impeccably lined, the cables look super neat and clean, not just this like rat's nest of crap.
Yeah. My buddy Matt at TRC in Boston, he always had all the interns specific jobs when they opened or closed a session was to it was like do the windows, dust the gear, if you need to sweep the floors, sweep the floors. And it was like this maintaining this cleanliness that even after being used by hundreds and hundreds of sessions, after a few years, you still would walk in there and be like, this place is it looks like it's lived in, but it's not used or dirty by any means. You know what I mean? It's cared for. Yeah, it looks super professional. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like what is it? Concrete warehouse.
Ultimately, that building is, yeah.
Yep.
But it looks comfortable, and it looks clean and professional.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if you want to get a bit of inspiration on how to make your studio look fantastic, jump on the web and look at a bunch of pictures of ones that do, and see what's in that picture.
Just go through Mix Wednesday's last year and a half worth of pictures about our post.
Awesome. really attractive looking places. And what's funny is that for me, when I look at his place, what is attractive is, okay, it's not just black and white. There's a color that is
Yeah.
filling the space. Right? It's lit up with some natural earth color, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's a good amount of gear in this space right in front of you with nothing extra there. And then there's maybe a screen or something and a set of monitors. And this absolute cleanliness with a nice color and just open space. That's what looks gorgeous to me every time. I basically pick the same kind of pictures every single time we do this.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned the color LEDs, now I'm like really looking into I want to get started on the Philips Hue thing because
I actually just ordered a bunch of the Philips Hue stuff myself.
Oh, let me know how it is.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's going to get here while I'm not here. It's going to get here while I'm in New York. So
Bummer.
I'll get back. But it was not that expensive, and I think it's probably worth jumping into. Again,
Yeah, I mean,
matters
how
a lot.
cool would it be? I'm tracking a band, they're in the other room, and I'm controlling the lights from my phone. I can dim them. I can change the color a little bit right from my phone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, you're playing God right there.
God.
You're playing God, guy. Yeah. I think what it boils down to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan or Kenny, ultimately you're creating a space where you're in control of a space where a lot of people have to be creative. And if you and any type of distractions, whether they're cleanliness or whether they're messiness or it's like, lighting or it's like natural light, it's all these are all like, it's creativeness is like, the need for creativeness is strictly subjective, but these distractions could potentially lead to someone maybe being distracted from their creativeness. And you don't want that when someone is in your studio, whether they're an engineer or they're someone who's just trying to work on their song or their music, right?
I think the idea is you want to think of your space as important as the artist thinks of their performance and whole creativity.
I see. Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think that makes some sense. Yeah.
I don't know. If it doesn't, make the connection. I don't care.
Anyways, yeah, I think we kind of covered most of the in-person aesthetic stuff here. I mean, that really does get most of it.
Yeah, totally. So,
but good thing to know is that this is not an expensive thing. You can jump in and do this for $50, make your place look amazing. You just need to spend the time to do it, and as we've all kind of iterated at this point, cleanliness is a huge, huge part of it. So
yeah, totally.
Well, and this also goes for, I mean, if you guys who are watching, you're just looking to be mixers, and maybe you want a potential client or a friend who, you want to mix for them. You want them to come by and see what you're working with. It's way better if you have a good working space.
Yeah.
It feels good as as an artist.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, want to move on to the next one?
Yep.
Alrighty. Boom. Online aesthetic.
Well, I guess we jumped into this a little bit with the pictures part, right?
We did. Yes, we did.
But I would expect every studio at this point to have a website.
Yep.
It's damn near free. In fact, it is free.
It is free.
At this point. You can obviously own your own domain. Maybe you can pay for that. But to make a website, it is free. There's zero reason you shouldn't have one.
Yep. It's totally true. You can do Squarespace, you can do WordPress, you can sign up for just about anything and put some information about your studio, contact information, and even at the bare minimum, it is free and it exists. And I think it's totally possible for anybody. That's why I have a website that I don't have much on, but it is there. You know what I mean? So if someone wants to contact me, they can, I can send them my way. And I put that website in my signature and all my emails so that if someone were to be like, I can click on his website. Cool, look at that. I didn't know he worked on that. Or cool, I can contact him through here. Or, oh, that looks like a nice website,
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is a thing. It's like, at this point, you give out business cards, right?
Yep.
These cards need to go somewhere. And for the most part, if you go to a lot of events, you get a good number of business cards, right? You can't
Yeah.
remember everybody that gave you all of them. But if you go on their website, you want to be able to see what it is they do and understand and remember them immediately, you know?
Yep. It's totally true.
So it all kind of matters in the end.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So I think we kind of actually touched on this, I think, a lot. So maybe we should move on to the next one here, huh?
Yep.
All right. Presence, the state of existing.
Yeah, so I mean, what would you think I meant by this?
Well, the way I was thinking about it when you first said it was like, is it the location? Is it your place in the industry? Is it your place in your community? Is it your place in your city that you're in? I don't know if that was what you were getting at, but or like it's important to exist, obviously, like that goes without question. But I think maybe it was deeper than that. Maybe it's more like you want to make sure that you do have a presence somewhere, not just you open something and it's like this hopeful thing that you know what I mean. Like you just don't really know what you just open something, you know what I mean, and it's like let's just open it and see what happens. If you build it, they will come. That kind of mentality. I don't really know. I honestly didn't really know if it was anything to do with any of that, so I took a shot in the dark there.
It was, I actually meant online presence.
Oh, okay. So
How visible are you on the internet?
I
A
see.
long time ago on a Mix Wednesday, I said, Dan, if we Google your name, what do we find?
The first thing right now you'll find on Google is that Daniel Gonzalez is a serial killer, and he's wanted. And I think he got sent to prison for life. Yeah, it's a bummer story.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
man.
so it's definitely not me.
You got caught?
Yeah, no. Since that conversation, I changed I changed a couple things. I still got to change my website, but I just shortened my last name because I actually never really liked my last name. I don't know, because it's like the second most common
Yes.
Hispanic last name
Well,
next to
plus-
Rodriguez. What was that?
Plus, people have to know how to spell it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I changed it to Gonz. It's Gonz. That's it. So now I kind of just now if you Google that, hopefully over the course of the next 6 months or 9 months or however many months it takes for us to get a lot of posts on our blog, that'll become the more that'll become more searchable in Google. So yeah, but I think the conversation kind of was about how to maintain an online presence, and one of those things was being completely searchable, being relevant when someone types in your name or something to do with you in Google, and you come up on the first page. No questions asked. Maybe within even the top 3, you want to strive for that top 3 thing. So whatever you can do to, like, I'm pretty sure, like when I type in Nightfall Studios, Kenny, your studio Facebook page comes up, right?
It should. Let's see.
Let's see.
And
What the hell? Nightfall Studio. Okay, well, it's the first thing that's not a YouTube link. Yeah,
okay,
it's
what
there.
are YouTube links?
Are you looking?
Nightfall Studios. Let's see here. I typed in Nightfall Studios on. Oh, is it Nightfall or Nightfalls?
Nightfall.
Nightfall Studios.
Apparently, there's one other Nightfall that's a game developer or something.
Okay.
I don't
Interesting.
know. I am the first one that comes up though, so that's pretty cool.
Well, either way though, the important thing though is that
Yeah. No, you're there, man.
you do want to be very present on the internet, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
do you want to go into a bunch of SEO and do search engine optimization? Probably not. It's probably not worth your money or your time.
Yeah.
But you do want to make sure that you own your website, your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook group, your whatever, and you want to make sure that when someone tries to find you, they can find you.
Yeah.
Obviously, tons and tons and tons of resources you could jump into to find ways to do this.
Yeah.
But we don't really need to jump into that. But it is super important that people can find you when they're looking for you.
Yeah.
Do you guys have Google alerts on your name?
What do you mean?
I can't because I get notifications about serial killers.
If I put in if I Google my name and I scroll to the bottom, it says "Stay in the loop. Receive email notifications when your name gets mentioned on the web."
Oh,
Yeah.
I should do that.
sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
You can meet up with all the other Kenny Gashgarians in the world.
Yeah. Well, no, it's kind of cool. So alert preview. So it shows the past alerts.
Yeah.
So mixing and mastering by Kenny Gashgarian. Kenny Gashgarian on LinkedIn. Sound better.
It's a good way to
Zomato.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep tabs on stuff that you are close with or people that
Yeah.
you want to keep close. You know,
Well, I
it's
mean,
kind
look at this. Look at this. I don't know what the hell Zomato is, but apparently I have a foodie profile on Zomato.
wow.
And is it actually you?
I think it is me. I think it was maybe an app that I downloaded when I was bored and probably deleted 10 seconds later because no one uses it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's there now. So now I know I should, it might be a good idea to get off of that.
Right. I
pretty funny.
think we've jumped into this one enough.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, all good.
That's pretty funny. Yep. All right, let's move to the next one. Audio samples. Here's kind of a big one. Would you agree?
It's a huge one.
a good
I'm
one.
seriously surprised how many studios have a website that actually just have no audio samples up at all.
It's pretty bizarre, huh?
There's a lot of them. A lot of them.
Yeah. I completely agree.
And then even outside of that, there's also plenty of studios that have audio samples that are not good.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because the work they produce is not that great. Maybe it's because they just haven't spent the time to revise it.
Yeah.
And I've also been on some where it's like the audio samples that are up there are like 4 years old.
Yeah.
And maybe they're
That's
good,
often-
maybe they're not. But either way, even if you're busy as a studio, you need to know, you have to know that people are going to listen to the stuff that's come out of your space. And if they're coming to your website to check you out, they're going to listen to what's on it.
Yeah.
If 4
Definitely.
years old is not representative of where you're at now, well, then you probably should
Update it.
Yeah, it comes back to that driving towards success. Like you want your studio to have a specific, like if you're driving towards a specific client for your studio, if it's a guitar studio, if it's a drum studio, if it's a mastering studio, if it's a mixing studio, like if there is a specific, or it's just you as a person who produces, there's a specific thing that you think you're good at or your studio is specialized at. So you want to give the people who are looking for you an idea of what it is that you do, or even what your space sounds like. You know, like here are some examples of a really unique reverb chamber that's a modified what is it? A modified brick chimney that exists. That was like, I think that's like a studio called Blue Jay Studios in Boston that used to exist.
Yeah, it's in Carlisle, Massachusetts. I used to know the owner. I went to middle school and high school with his son.
Exactly.
Then the Backstreet Boys bought it.
Oh yeah, is that? I didn't know
The
that.
Backstreet Boys bought it, and then like a week later, there was a bunch of Studer tape machines sitting outside in the trash.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Damn, Backstreet Boys.
At the time, if I had money, I might have wanted to jump in on that.
Buy a boat anchor.
I don't know what I would have done with it, honestly, because I wouldn't have known what to do with it then.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Anyways, so audio samples. And the interesting thing about this is that when you have multiple engineers that work in your space, or your studio, or you mix on your own, or whatever it may be, you do have a lot of options. So let's say I was a staff engineer at the studio. They could take any record I've worked on and put it on their website.
Yep.
And they just need to credit it appropriately. This is mixed by one of our engineers.
Right.
They could put another one on there. This is recorded in this space.
Yep.
You know, all sorts of information like that. It's not like the options aren't there. It's only once you've gotten to this certain level of success where it's like almost a joke.
Yeah.
Where you look at like the studio's discography and you're like, oh, they did John Mayer Continuum. Oh, they did this. They did, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
well, someone's probably heard those audio samples. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
that's what you kind of get away with. Like, oh, you don't need to post it. Instead, you just put album covers, a crap load of them.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me though. It's something that grinds my gears a tiny bit is when a studio or an engineer, it's usually just individual engineers, will just list off a credits list that is just a bunch of album covers. Doesn't say anything about what they did on it.
Yeah, that's annoying.
What makes it more annoying for me is when someone is running their website as if, okay, I'm a mix engineer, and then they've got a link to an album that they didn't mix,
Oh
and
wow.
they may have been the assistant engineer on it, or they may have been something else. But it's almost a little bit of a lie. They're pushing to people that they are a mix engineer, and then they're posting a long list of discography or pictures of records or whatever, and they're not really disclosing specifically what they did on that record.
Yeah.
And it implies a whole load, and that happens once, and they never trust you again. So you can't let someone find out your lie like that.
Yeah.
Meaning you just can't make that lie.
That was a pretty big discussion I remember in one of my like last classes at Berkeley. Susan Rogers, who's a monster engineer, she was just like, "Don't take credit for stuff that you didn't work on, ever, ever.
Right.
Don't do it." Like it was just like this conversation that was like, it was just like so serious. You know what I mean? Like it just. What's
That's
that?
it. You're going to
Yeah.
get found out, period. I mean, I hire a lot for tours, for audio staff and drum techs and whatever it is. I hire a lot. I staff a lot on tours. And even for tours I'm not on, just because I've known the people that are on it for a really long time, and they know that I know a lot of people. So
Yeah.
they'll forward me resumes for people that have, hit them up to work on their gig. And there'll be a resume that said, oh, I did sound for Tove Lo for 3 years. And I'll go, oh, hang on. Let me call Tove's manager. Or let me call Tove.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
call him. I'll be like, hey, have you ever heard of this dude, Patrick Jones? And they go, no, who's that? I'm like, apparently he was your sound guy for 3 years. And I go, no, don't know who that is.
Yeah.
That guy's basically blacklisted
Wow.
from anybody I know now.
Yeah, which you pretty much know all of California and all of New York. So,
A lot
yeah.
of people, right? It doesn't stop people from doing it. People keep doing that. I see resumes come in for gigs all the time, and I'm like, oh, I know a bunch of those guys. Let me call them up and see if they know them.
Yeah.
And it's bad either way.
Yeah.
So yeah, just don't do that. So don't try and fake your discography. Don't try and fake any of that stuff. It'll get figured out. And
Yeah.
if you work on something huge in a small respect, write that you worked on it in a small respect. Say, yeah, I was the vocal editor for Pro Tools on this massive record.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Nobody's going to get upset that that's what you did.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
You're just
if
being
it's true,
truthful.
Then put it up there.
Totally.
Right.
Cool. I think covers that. Engineer mentality. So, what did you mean by this, Ryan John? When you spit this out of your, or whatever you said did?
What do you think I meant by it?
I'm gonna take it literally and mean that like you want to know what the mentality of the people who work there, work at the studio or the space is, and or do they require like is it babysitting or is it like you free reign? I'm not too sure what you meant by it, but that was kind of the first few things those words came to mind when I saw you say engineer mentality.
Well, Kenny just described tattoo artist mentality to me.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Now is your answer different?
What's that?
Now is your answer different?
Yeah, no, it totally is. It totally is. We had a whole conversation about that entire thing, I think, right to prime this entire episode, actually.
So this is an interesting thing, right? So everyone's like, oh man, I want to be a house engineer in a studio, and this is a dream of students who are in recording school, right? They're like, I want to be the engineer at this studio.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it was your dream at some point too, right?
Everybody, yeah.
It was mine
Totally.
too. And then I did it, and I realized how much it sucks.
Yeah.
Because you have to work with whoever comes in, whether you like it or don't, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But
It's true.
the thing is that if you run a studio and you have engineers working for you, or you are an engineer and you're doing this stuff, you need to come in to every gig like it is the best gig ever, and you need to come into it positively. And you can never be the guy there going, this band sucks. All right, that take was okay, whatever, man, next one. That takes apart the whole thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. This is
That's
engineer mentality. You can't have an engineer in there being the guy that's talking shit about everything. You can't have an engineer that's in there that doesn't give a crap about the project he's working on. If I'm going to go into a studio and use their space to do anything, I'm probably going to want to meet a bunch of their interns, probably going to want to meet their assistants, meet the engineers, and I'll somehow make it happen just by having a conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Us just talking and having a good time. But you want anyone that works in your space, be it someone renting it or be it someone that actually works there,
Yeah.
to maintain, an attitude that lines up with what you want to present as your studio.
Yeah. This gives me like thoughts about like the live world too, where like the amount of interaction that you have as like a monitor mixer with a band, especially if you're just like the house monitor mixer, like your attitude has to be like a really specific, like good attitude, because you're going to deal with so many different people that need so many different things in such a short amount of time that in an emotional moment, there can be like, crazy, there can be like a moment of emotion, and you need to understand how to handle that, or just be like, all right, cool. Hey, what's up? Like I'm Dan. What's up? How's it going? Everybody just raise their hand for what they need. And hey, make things super easy, super nice. Cause I mean, you're basically controlling what these people hear. You know what I mean? And it's, if you have a jaded attitude, like you're the enemy and I'm going to do what I do and you're going to like it, it's like, that doesn't make any sense at all. That just makes the whole situation like a total bummer. So yeah, I totally get it now. I totally get it, what you meant by engineer mentality. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
We are flying through these things. I like it.
I mean, I like to think of it as for the engineer mentality, you kind of want to. I mean, are we talking about you yourself or people that you might hire?
It doesn't matter. I mean,
okay, so I like to kind of
the owner of the space, the people that you have working in that space need to be in a good mentality, right?
Yeah, I try to.
The owner also need to be.
I guess I try to approach it as a kind of be in the moment mentality. I try not to think about past experiences and maybe grudges or something that got had put a bad taste in my mouth, or that this project is less in any way than any other one. I try to be like just be there in the moment and treat it as this is whatever I'm doing now could have a profound effect on the future of the studio.
That is 100% true.
Yeah, I like that.
So even the way I react to something that I'm not feeling.
Right.
So yeah, I mean mentality. I guess mentality / personality. That makes a huge difference in the space that you're running.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
Click.
Next one, staffing requirements.
Well, so this is an interesting one because it really only kind of jumps into studios larger than just your house where you're the only engineer, right?
Gotcha.
So when you think of a proper studio,
yeah,
there's obviously a studio owner. Often that studio owner is also the studio manager, right?
Yep.
Also, that studio owner could be an engineer.
Yep.
Also, that studio owner could be the assistant that assists you if you book the space and don't need an engineer.
True. Yeah.
So in the case of you, Kenny, you are all of those things, right?
Yeah.
You're also the recording engineer. You're also the mixing engineer.
Usually, yeah.
You're also the janitor.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like a negative way. I mean, you're doing everything in your space, right?
Yeah. It's totally true.
And it's aggravating when people leave fucking, half drinking Dunkin' Donuts iced coffees all over, like, this cool little alcove that I have of hand drums, on top of them.
Right.
But, the way I react to that and the way I deal with it is what matters.
Right.
But
absolutely.
yeah, I am all those things. Yes.
So the interesting thing here, though, is that myself as an engineer going into a space and trying to figure out, how I want to rent it, what I want to do with it. As I said just a minute ago, I'm going to meet the assistants, I'm going to meet the interns, and I'm going to chat with the owner, I'm going to chat with the manager, all these things. And And if I go into a space and they go, yeah, if you book it as an engineer, we give you the room. I go, okay, are you going to give me maybe a patch bay diagram to show me what patches go where? Are you going to give me anything else? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they need to give you the tools to succeed. And if they just say, here's the room, you don't have those.
Yeah.
Unless they've already reviewed where all the tie lines in the walls go to, which pieces of gear works, which ones, have noise, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of studios that are seriously understaffed. There are also plenty of studios that have a bunch of interns unpaid, which is kind of okay, but not okay if they're not fulfilling that actual staff requirement.
Right.
If they're there just as a janitor,
Yeah.
that's great and cool, but doesn't actually help you in terms of the overall scheme of what you might need.
Right. Totally.
So ultimately, like it's almost like it's a hierarchy, and you need to fill downward, right? So if you're the guy that does all of it, you're the studio manager, you're the booker, or you're the owner, you're the manager, you're the booker, you're the engineer, you're the assistant, and you're the intern, and you're the janitor, right? And if you can start filling downwards, you kind of end up in a better spot, right? But if you're going to hire someone as an intern, you should move them upwards, or at least be able to cover upwards, right? So if you start them as a janitor till you trust them, then give them the assistant responsibility so that they can know that much. Then you start giving them engineer responsibility so they can know that much.
Yeah.
That way, even if for some reason there's some session that comes in and you're just slightly understaffed, the guys that are in the step below that can step up to those spots, and they already know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely there's a definitely levels of trust that are kind of parallel to the level that they have in your space.
Right.
Yeah, totally. One of the guys that I work with at Irving, he like set me aside and he said to me like, "You're an audio guy, right?" And I was like, "Yes." And he said, "Just follow me." And he like he always says like, it's really important that everybody here that has a specialty understands how everything works, because the second someone leaves, they need to fill that position. And like I was like, wow, that's awesome. Jeez, like you know what I mean? It wasn't just like like a sink or swim situation. It was like, here, just this is how this works. Ask
Right.
questions. And if there's going to be a time when you're going to have to run this. You know what I mean?
Was that Billy?
That was Brett, but Billy, I just follow Billy around too. He's like, yeah, this is the inserts. Everything's labeled. You're smart. You can figure. You know what I mean? Like Billy's very. That's awesome.
No, I mean that's exactly it. It's the more you learn about these things, the better off you are. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of where the staffing requirements comes from. It's all based on the size of your space, but it's really relevant to have all those positions filled.
Totally. Yeah, and your note about having a conversation with the studio owner and all that stuff and understanding how the studio works. Studio that I know, like I said, TRC, those guys in Boston, they interview every single potential engineer that could be using their space, just so that they know they have trust in that because these guys, what they do is they just give you the keys. They literally give you the keys and say, it's yours for the weekend or the day or whatever. But if you don't know them, they sit down with you and they actually interview you, and they just ask questions that kind of give them an understanding of where you are as far as like can you run a session,
Break it, are you gonna,
do you know what phantom power is? Do you know what a ribbon microphone is? Do you know that they can't be that kind of stuff?
If you think about it this way, they are aiming for your success, and they should be, because you're the guy going into their space. You're the guy who's going to talk about their space to somebody else after you're done.
Yep.
All of those things are going to happen, So if you go in and you have a crap session, your band thinks the studio sucks, because most likely as an engineer, you're going to blame the studio rather than blaming yourself, even though it may be your own fault.
Yep.
Right? So the band thinks the studio sucks, the record's going to suck, and you're going to go around telling other people that this place is bad.
Yeah.
Everything about that, it makes it not worth it. So I understand and totally value them interviewing you before you get to use the space.
Yeah.
That also
Everybody
probably
sucks.
turns into them telling you a bunch of stuff about the space.
Yeah.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah, this is patched to here and this is patched to here, and all of a sudden you know how to use it all.
Yep. That's cool. I like it.
Gears.
Gear needs. I have beer needs. I don't have any gear needs right now. I definitely have beer needs though.
Well,
That's for
so
sure.
this kind of jumps into a question I was asking you. So there's a new studio near you called the Ice Plant,
Yep.
right? And I remember you were super excited, and you showed me all these pictures and all this stuff. And you're saying that it's generally a tracking studio,
Yes.
right? And I looked at it, and I go, I'm looking at all that outboard gear. That looks like a mixing studio to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember my response like that. Like I was like, this is a mixing studio. You sure it's a tracking studio?
Yeah. No. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
I see what you mean by that.
this is an interesting one, right? Because when you decide to start a business, you need to focus. You can't just go, I'm going to do everything in my studio.
Right.
You basically need to decide, am I going to be tracking in the space? Am I going to be mixing in the space? Am I going to be mastering in the space? Now, obviously you can do multiples of those, but at least at the beginning you need to focus on one.
Right.
And the reason is because you're going to end up spending a whole lot of money on getting the gear to do that.
Right.
Once you have the gear to do that, then maybe you can start focusing on the other one and start getting some of the gear to do that.
Right.
But ultimately your focus can never be equally on both. It just doesn't work that way.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah. I totally feel that, man. I totally feel that. That makes a lot of sense.
And then the places that do focus on both actually usually tend to have floating gear, meaning like their studio is set up so it's like kind of a tracking space,
Yeah.
but they can bring in a bunch of gear into that space to use as a mixing space.
Yeah.
If they don't have multiple rooms, yeah, I guess you could end up with all this mixing gear in a space that was originally intended for tracking, and you can end up in a place where this works. But financially, this just doesn't make sense anyways, because that gear shouldn't be living in a space where it's not being used. It should actually be being used for something else. If you want to just break it down to just the pure numbers,
Right.
like it is literally wasting money for it to be sitting there.
Right.
It could be rented to something else. It could be on, so if you choose to focus instead, and you want to make your space a tracking space, you might build an amazing tracking room. Awesome. You're going to have a nice mic collection. You're going to have a bunch of great preamps. You might have a couple comps and a couple outboard EQs to get your stuff in. You do
Right.
not need a Shadow Hills mastering compressor.
Right.
You do not need an
Aw.
API 2500. You do not need like 6 sets of monitors.
Right. Right. I see what you mean.
But if you're going to be a mixing space, you need many sets of monitors, and you probably want a mastering compressor, mastering EQ type stuff. Not because you're going to do mastering, but I really mean like a 2-bus compressor.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Your requirements completely change.
Yeah.
And Kenny, I remember when you were setting up your space, while you were trying to figure out your interface options,
Yeah.
we kind of jumped into that question. We go, do you want this to be a tracking space or a mixing space?
That was a long conversation. I remember you took a long time to figure that stuff out, Kenny. Or not a long time, but it felt like we were having a conversation about that stuff for a while, trying to figure
Yeah.
out the interface you were going to get.
Yep. Well, I mean, I feel like that's one of the most important pieces of gear. And of course, I threw a wrench in your spokes and stayed stubborn and said I want to do both.
And we ended up in a place where you got through to being able to do both. But had you decided to do just one, would you have better gear for doing that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
And obviously, as a studio, you can choose to do both these things. You can record and mix a record in your own space, and you can do all that stuff. That's okay. But as me being an engineer that walks in, I walk in, I look at it, and I judge what your space is best for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm going to judge it based on the stuff that's there, and I'm going to judge it based on what's around. So in Kenny's case, he even said earlier, you said that you've got a bunch of mics out so people can see it when they come in. If I walked in and saw that, I'd go, cool, this is a recording space.
Yep.
Pretty much immediately. Even if I saw that you've got like a Van der Graaf and like the 7602 and like a bunch of stuff like that, I'd
Yep.
still go, this is a recording space. Whereas you walk into my space, you've seen it,
Yep.
unquestionably a mixing space, right?
Yep. Definitely.
Bunch of faders, bunch of sets of monitors, whole bunch of outboard gear, but none of that outboard gear is tracking. I literally don't own a pre.
That's true. You don't. I never thought about that.
Brendan actually loaned me a pair of Focusrite pre's, but I haven't even plugged them in yet. I just haven't gotten around to it. But
Yeah.
you get the idea, though. So, you buy the gear to focus on one, And
Honestly, like it's. I feel like for mixing, you want more um, connectivity. Outputs. You want basically more outputs, and for tracking, you want more preamps.
right,
So what I did, we got this Zen Studio, and it's kind of a pretty good combo of both. My only drawback is that I have a DB25, lining out to this lunchbox, this API lunchbox for mixing. But
Yeah.
if I want more preamps, because I have a good amount of external preamps too, I have a separate cable that I can plug into the same spot, and then it's more my, extended tracking setup.
yeah,
And so it's, I mean, it's one changeover, but it's pretty good. Came out to be a pretty good option.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, it's possible to do both, but at the start, you're going to focus on one, and when someone walks in, they're going to assume something based on it. And then let's go a little bit past just the gear.
Yeah.
The physical setup of a mix room is different than the physical setup of a tracking room,
It's true.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have a giant screen up in front of me. I'm not going to have a window that looks out as a control room towards a band.
Nope, you're not.
And then I'm going to have monitors set back, like 5-6 feet or whatnot.
Right.
I'm going to have them sitting on a console, like things like that. I'm going to have all these racks totally accessible to me to be able to not leave the sweet spot and get into these things. And that's a really different kind of need than having the open space of maybe having a guitar player sitting next to you tracking while you guys are listening together,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the gear needs thing too. But I mean, when it comes to a studio, let's jump into the other part of gear needs.
Sure.
We want to impress somebody, right?
Yep.
So, do I put an SSL console in my studio just to impress someone? Maybe.
Maybe.
You have money to burn.
Well, that is the truth of it, right? Yeah, it's money to burn. Yes, I can use it for a bunch of things, and it's got a whole load of functionality in it, right?
Yeah.
But a guy I know who lives in Tokyo now, mixed almost every Mariah Carey record ever.
Wow.
He's got an SSL 4000. It's a desk.
Yeah.
He's got a screen sitting on it, digital faders and all that stuff. And like, I mean, yeah. But the thing is, people walk into the studio, they go, "You're serious. You've invested this money. We know you can do good work."
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So while I'm not saying consoles are useless, they're definitely not. Hell, I'd actually love to have one.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary. But
Yeah.
impressiveness is a huge factor. You want someone to walk in and be impressed by your room. Maybe this goes back to the aesthetic part that we jumped into earlier.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah. I
Yep.
mean, I think it's easy for me to imagine how much more business, how much a bigger business I could get if I had, a really perfect setup and a console. I mean,
Right.
people see that and they're like, "Oh, this is this is the real thing."
Well, now here's an interesting thing to jump into. Okay, when you go to a studio's website, there's two things I'm going to look at, and the first one is going to be the pictures. The second one's going to be the gear list.
Yeah.
If the pictures look awesome and it looks super organized and it looks like I have everything I need, I'm not going to be upset if the gear list is short.
Okay.
And I'm being completely serious. Like, let's say I'm tracking. Okay, yeah, I want to see a bunch of mics. But if it's a mixing space, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, they only have a 2500 and two distressors, but they've got these great monitors. I wouldn't be bummed out. I'd go, this is great, cool. But if the pictures are very lackluster, I'm going to want to see a huge gear list.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting.
What am I not seeing?
Yeah, what am I not seeing? What's the stuff that they don't have? And if those two can offset one another, one can be heavy and the other one can be light, and it can go the other way, or we can end up in the middle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense, dude. I got into a situation, and this doesn't sound negative, but and I won't name the studio obviously because I don't even know if they're still there. But I remember I told one of my clients at the time that we should track at this place, or she told me at the time we should track at this place. They have the right price, and I was like, okay. I looked at the pictures, and I was like, okay, they have a tracking room. okay, they have a space that's like a picture of the tracking room, picture of the mixing room, right?
Yeah.
What wasn't shown was their tie line setup,
Uh-oh.
which
Oh.
didn't exist. It was a snake through a wall with just a loose tail in the dark with none of the tails labeled clearly. And you had to set up the microphones and then like fish through this like 24 this 24 like point tail and find one, find two, find three, and like it took me longer to figure out and troubleshoot what I plugged what into incorrectly than it was to than to actually like track, you know what I mean, and get the whole thing going. And it was like, it's like, man, I really wish I saw. And I know why they only had 2 pictures on their website, and they're super cheap because it's like this is what you get.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa.
Well, Bert brings up a good point. He goes, am I at a loss being a mix engineer if I only have HS8s and no outboard? I go, no, but you might be at a loss if another mixer wants to come in and rent your space, right?
That's
In
true.
terms of the gear you need to do your project, it's entirely dependent on the project and entirely dependent on the engineer, right? I mean, there's plenty of dudes. The last Eminem record was mixed on headphones on a laptop while on an airplane, and
Wow.
that was a pretty big record, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, he kind of brags on that one a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay. But in terms of gear needs, I mean, at that point, we jump to the audio samples, right? If the studio's audio samples are awesome, then you kind of get to go, well, this is fine. But in terms of a band coming in to use you as a studio, for the most part, they don't want to see that you use the same stuff that they can have at home.
That's true. Yeah.
They don't want to see that you're using the exact same stuff that is available in the Guitar Center that they walk into every other day and that they could buy for a couple $100. Obviously, your audio kind of speaks for itself in some regard, but at the same time, this whole aesthetic and all that, it really does affect the way people view your impression of your work, or
Yeah.
their impression of your work.
Yeah.
In fact, you could probably play one person 2 of the same mix and show them a picture. This one was recorded, mixed on a laptop with a pair of HS8s just on some desk. It's got food sitting on the left side and a beer on the right.
Yeah.
And play them the same thing and put a picture of an SSL and a gorgeous room.
Yeah.
And they'll probably say that one sounds better.
Wow. Man, dude.
I'm being serious though. Like I'm being
No, dude, it's a great point. You're like, I just love how you can break down the blind test so logically like that. You know what I mean?
blind test, cool, but like it's also about how it feels, right? These guys feel like they're getting their money's worth.
Yeah, totally.
Even though what they're really paying for is your skill set, which is irrelevant of your gear.
Yeah.
This is kind of why I'm saying, getting an SSL console to impress people is really what it's for. It's to impress people. It makes them more willing to pay more money to have you do their project, even if you never use the console.
Yeah. It's a $32,000, depending on what you're looking for, summing box.
$22,500.
What is it? 50?
$22,500 is the one I sent you earlier.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Remember, I was
So
like, should I buy an SSL console?
Or should I get a new car? Or should
Or should you have a down payment for a house or whatever this dumb stuff is.
Yeah.
right? Oh, that's hilarious.
Funnily enough, if I really wanted to impress people right now, I could rebuild my studio around the S6 that I've got here.
Yeah.
It would be fun.
Sure.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Anyways, so, all right, let's jump on to the next one.
Technical requirements for isolation and viability.
Because I didn't say this one, so
Yeah, you did.
Let's hear it, Dan.
tell me.
What do you you did say this one. This is the reason why I wrote it down.
All right. Technical requirements
Just
for
kidding.
viability. All right, we're going to talk about technical requirements for viability. This is kind of jumping into a tracking thing.
Okay.
If I need to record drums and I need to record guitars at the same time and bass at the same time and vocals at the same time,
I
well
see.
then I need a bunch of ISO rooms and a drum room, and I need to make sure this studio has tie lines and the ability and preamps and all this stuff to be able to do this.
I see.
So there is a minimum technical requirement you have for any project you're doing. If you're only recording drums, well, maybe your intention is to run 12 mics, right? So you need 12 mics, stands, cables, tie lines, and head amps, obviously.
Yep.
Right. If you're
Yep.
trying to do anything more than that, like you need, there is this minimum requirement for what is technically necessary in order to achieve your goal.
That's true. Yeah, no,
And
totally.
these are things that come up because I've definitely gone into a studio with the idea of having a project and saying, oh man, we don't have ISOs for all this stuff. Well, then let's just put a bunch of gobos in a pile and try and cover it up, and it doesn't work very well, you know?
No. Sound is water.
So there's a general technical requirement here that you need to have. And I mean, Kenny, have you ever come upon this yet? I mean, I guess you haven't since you're engineering it most of the time, right?
Yeah.
But has there been any time where you're wishing you had something technically more than what you have?
Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's there's always things, I guess.
Like what?
I mean, just having just the ideal setups for all sorts of different things. I mean, it's uh, you know, I'd say a lot of spaces don't have, they're not perfect.
Hmm.
So I mean, I feel like it could always get better.
Right.
But things in terms of isolation for sure. That's a big one. Just mics, as I grew, I was always trying to find. My question wasn't what's a great mic. It's what would be a great mic for this situation.
Right.
So and going back to the gear thing, it was always like what's going to work for my situation.
Right.
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 Yeah, I mean that's a real thing. It's really interesting. I've come upon a couple studios who do this really, really, really well.
Oh yeah.
There's a studio that's in San Rafael, just north of here, that has, I think, 3 grand pianos.
Yeah.
What?
They got a Steinway Grand, they got a model, a C6 from Yamaha, and they've got like a Bossendorfer.
Wow.
I knew you were going to say that.
And they store a lot of them. So like they'll flip them up and store them, but they have a piano tuner in house. But
Damn.
one of the things that's really cool is that all their images online have the piano as the focus.
Yep.
It's a gorgeous room. Plenty of people come in and do drums and all sorts of other stuff. But
Yeah.
every single picture, they got that piano right in the center of the room, like open with the mics and all this stuff out. And it's really become kind of known as, oh, if you need to track piano, you go to that space,
Interesting.
which is really cool. So they've kind of almost jumped past this technical requirements for viability thing by saying, we could do stuff, but this is what we're best at.
That seems smart too. I mean, that seems kind of like good marketing too. I mean, I feel like
Right.
the people who want to track a record on a grand piano are gonna pay top dollar too.
Yeah. Totally.
Also, you got Jingletown, which is Green Day's studio. It's just maybe a couple miles from here, 2 miles away.
Yeah.
You go in there, all their pictures and all their everything is drums in that big room because it's a giant oak room with like a drum umbrella and all this stuff. And they are very clearly pushing on you. This room is for live drums.
Yeah.
And they kind of cover a lot of this through their pictures that are presented in their studio, which is cool. So they don't necessarily need to say, we have 6 ISOs, we have this and all that. They just show it in use as that.
Yeah.
So that kind of allows you to get by it mentally really quickly. You go, oh man, drums look great in that room. So mentally you go, oh, they probably sound great in that room.
Yeah. That makes me think of a studio in Boston in I can't remember where it is, but they basically their claim is that they can fit 110 people standing up in their room, like a choir, right?
Right.
And so like you're like, oh yeah, okay, and then like you go to their website and you see this room and it's just like the 2 pictures you see are like 110 people standing in a room singing, or I think about 60% of those people, maybe like 65 or whatever, sitting in chairs, and then they show you a picture of like an orchestra. You know what I mean? And you're like, ah, I get it. Now everybody here is going to understand that this room, not only is it massive, but it's probably treated to be a live choir, kind of orchestra setting, a great place to record people in an orchestra setting. Yeah, it makes sense now. Duh.
Very cool to do that because
Thanks, Ryan.
you don't necessarily bottleneck what you're doing,
Yeah.
but you do accent what you are really good at that
Yeah.
someone else might not be good at. And in the case
Yeah.
you described, most places can't even do that.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm trying to project that I have a space that's capable of tracking drums, I'm gonna try and put up pictures of the biggest drum kit that's ever been in here, and have it look awesome and comfortable and professional.
So
Yeah.
you're saying you're going to track Russian in your studio?
Yes. Yeah, that's what you got to do if you want to attract drummers.
Yeah, you just call up Neil Peart. Yo, can you
Can you bring the 360 set? I'm gonna need it for some pictures.
Neil, I hope you're not bumming right now. Can you come by with all your drums?
Can you jump on your motorcycle and a couple buses and just come down here to Canton? I need you.
Terry Bozzio's kit. I wouldn't have room for that.
Yeah.
that kind of covers that.
Yeah.
The pro bono work, I know we've talked about this a bunch.
Yeah.
You guys can jump in on this one.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think it's the one of the best ways to. I feel like a lot of studios when they're first starting out, it's like with anybody really. It's like that first hit. People want to understand what you do, who you are, and how you operate, and what you can do. And someone's not just going to take your word for it. They're going to want to, especially if you don't have sound examples or if you're not that experienced or maybe you just opened, right? I feel personally, and this is what I started doing after I talked to Ryan about it, is just letting someone know that I'll mix your last single or your last something from your previous work for free. Let me just take a whack at it. Let's see if we can put something together. Maybe we can work together on something. I've seen successful studios who bring in a lot of clients and have told me that their method for doing this kind of thing is in the form of shooting video for a band coming in. They do a live tracking thing, or doing the actually, which is what I said. We'll cut a single for you, and the conversation won't really come up, but it'll be implied that if you like this single, come back. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really smart way of doing things, because not only does it open up and show that you take on projects that you love, and you're going to invest in your time into something, but you're also kind of developing a relationship with someone, saying, yeah, let's do it, let's have fun, let's just forget about the money. I just want you in here, and I want to get you behind the microphone, get your band in here, and just cut something awesome. It eliminates the whole conversation of, well, we got to have a conversation about your credit card because it's not going through. You know what I mean? Like, that conversation is completely eliminated, and for most people these days, that conversation is a difficult one to have. So by eliminating that, doing some pro bono work, and then making friends with people, yes, they're always going to come back to you. I don't know, Kenny, do you do a lot of this? Like, do you have people come in and just cut something for free, or like, is it like, I actually don't know anything about the way you bring in new clients, or if that is even a method you go about doing it in your studio.
It definitely is if I'm trying to get more business, yeah.
That's cool.
But I kind of take it to a different level. I also do it with like what Brian was saying. I track and mix a lot of the projects that come in and out of here.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've said before is that when I'm starting to mix an album, even if they're pretty sure that they want me to mix it, I'll say, I'll ask them if I can mix one track, and that'll pretty much be the test track. And if that's anywhere close to what they're thinking, we kind of go back and forth on that track, and then they're like, okay, well, if the rest of the album is going to sound something like this, then this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
So has that ever backfired on you?
Yeah, I guess it has.
What happened?
It was more just a case of sort of being taken advantage of. I think we've all been there in one way or another, but you certainly learn from that each time.
Right. But so that happened. Did it stop you from doing it again?
Um, it didn't stop me, but it taught me to be more mindful of how I do
And
it.
then I guess I have the question: did the band ask you to do it, or did you offer to do it?
I offered to do it.
Okay. Because I was going to say, usually if the band asks me to do something for free, I pretty much won't do it.
No, yeah,
Oh yeah, totally.
I don't think there's ever been a case where that actually happened because I think a lot of bands don't think of it on our side of things to get more business.
Right.
Yeah,
Totally.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
I don't really have much to add to this one. I
Sure.
really don't do it, but if you're trying to secure somebody for a gig, it's not an awful thing to do. And it's better to do this than to do discounts, because discounts people ask for. Again, free, people usually are not that bold.
Yeah, it's
Oh
true.
man, and it is so hard to keep track of things when you're hooking certain people up, and then you don't know if they're gonna tell these other people that.
Right?
What's that?
Like they'll tell other people that same rate.
Yeah, you don't want any part of that.
Nope. Exactly. The last one is events. A lot of studios that I've seen that do very well, they host events. They'll host secret shows. They'll host concerts. They'll have partnerships with some plugin companies and have the plugin companies or hardware companies come in and do demos. They'll have classes. They'll have just excuses to have everybody drink essentially. There's all different types of things I've seen studios do, and for the most part, it kind of comes back to a lot of what we've been talking about. They do a lot of the things that we've talked about in this class. I've gone to events where there's a tracking session happening in the actual party, and they're just doing a tracking session. I've seen events where part of the group splits off, and it's just a room of people. Just, yo, what are you working on? Oh, let's play it through the system. Oh, sweet. What are you working on? Let's play it through the system. You know what I mean? And it just kind of creates a space where people have fun, and it shows off the space at the same time, and even potentially has networking benefits if you want to make friends with more people. And it also gives you that online presence, in-person aesthetic, and just a presence in general within a community of people. You know what I mean? So I think people who throw studios that throw events that have this mentality of, yeah, let's just have some fun, let's bring people in, let's do something. Especially around trade show season when there's like NAM or there's AAS happening. Like that's major publicity for a lot of places. And even if you have a pretty banging like home studio, it's also a great place. So I don't know, I think events are a substantial part of that, and I think part of that is also kind of like communicating to the people about these events happening. Being kind of having that online presence and making people hyped about it. So
Here's a question, Dan. Have
yeah.
you ever gone to a studio that you had otherwise never heard of because of an event?
Have I ever gone to a studio that I've never heard of because of an event?
Yep.
Yep, I have.
There you go. That's it right there. Done.
I definitely have. Dude, I went to a party. I didn't even know this, but what's that plugin company that makes? Oh, East West. I
Oh,
had
yeah.
no
Yeah.
I had no idea they had a studio, and it makes sense. That's where they record all their samples.
Got a couple. Yeah.
I had no idea that place existed. And when I walked in, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ! Like this is just
Quite nice.
this. What's that?
Quite nice.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So that place is like a facility, and I was like, I'm here. I love it. I will go here if I ever have the chance in the future. You know what I mean? And it was simply because of that event. So
Well, that's great, man.
yeah,
I back that one up. I agree with that.
yeah. So
Ken, you don't even have an event in your studio.
yeah, guy.
I don't know. It's always an event here.
No. One thing I do remember in Boston that was really cool was back when I was playing music there, the local music scene was actually pretty big.
Yeah.
It's great.
All the bands would go to each other's shows and stuff like that. And there was this one band that was in like Alston or Brighton or whatever, and they had a big house, and they'd always invite all the local bands to come hang out, maybe once every other month or every 3 months.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was awesome. Created a community. Everyone knew everyone, and it was a neat thing. And Kenny, I imagine if you just had like a barbecue at your house one day and invited a bunch of bands over,
That'd
you'd
be
probably do
awesome.
the same thing.
Be great.
Yeah, you
Get
should
the
do that.
get the
Maybe I
grill
will.
going. Get the meat up. Yeah, that sounded weird. Get the meat up. Yeah,
Yeah.
never mind. Sorry. Get the meat grilling. There we go. That's what I meant to say.
Yep. But anyways, so yeah, I totally back the events idea.
Cool. Well, that's everything I had. Kenny, I don't know if you have any more things to add, or Ryan, you have anything more to add, but that's kind of everything that I have seen, and I think Ryan has seen, Kenny has seen over our long and short careers, or whatever it is.
It's some of what we've seen, yeah.
It's some of what we've seen. Yeah, totally. I'm sure we could sit here and talk for more hours about this stuff because we're good at talking, I guess, about this kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of everything. I think there's a lot of stuff to take away from this. I actually want to kind of take the notes that I've been taking throughout this thing, kind of post this thing as a PDF. Possibly, we'll see. We'll see if I get around to it. We got so much other stuff going on. I want to thank everybody who participated in the actual mix competition. I saw there were some last-minute submissions. And yeah, everything that was in there, everybody that sent me an email in the Mix Wednesday Gmail, I received it. And if I didn't receive it, if there was a problem with downloading it, or if there was some weird hang-up, I emailed you back, and you submitted another mix. So not a single thing was lost in translation. I made sure I went through that list of people who submitted their mixes twice. And I think, there's a pretty significant number of submissions. So we're excited to sit down and judge those and figure out who's going to be taking home some Bob's Digital Labs stuff. Yeah.
I'm very surprised by the hundreds of signups, man. It's going to take a while for us to go through this.
Yeah.
We're actually devising a method, the
Yes.
best way to do this.
Yeah, we are.
Basically, throw all of them out but mine. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Oh, that's hilarious.
I win.
Yes. So,
It will be fun if we get Rob from the band Wild Imaginaries in on this and get him to kind of jump into. It'll be fun.
yeah.
But anyways, thanks everybody for jumping in on the class today. Sorry it wasn't super technical, but this stuff is just as important, if not more important, than some of the technical stuff when it comes to succeeding in a job of doing this.
I agree. I agree with you 1,000%. So, with that, we'll see you guys next week. And if you like our page on YouTube, you'll get notifications when we put up these videos. And if you want to jump on the group, facebook.com/groups/MixWednesday, or just mixwednesday.com. Feel free to join the group and hang out and ask questions. We have a new blog up on WordPress. I'm sure you can find that somewhere on the interwebs because we're trying to do the right thing by tagging it correctly. We'll see how that goes. And yeah. So anyways, we'll see you guys next week. And remember, go fucking mix. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Yeah. Have a great week, guys.